In a world that often glorifies the abundance of companionship, the woman with no friends walks a different path, one not paved by the approval of many, but by the quiet assurance of her God. Her solitude is not a sign of weakness, but of strength, for she knows that the friendship of the world is fleeting, yet the love of her Creator is eternal. She has chosen to dwell in the secret place of the Most High, where she finds refuge from the storms of human judgment. She fears no. Her solitude is not a sign of weakness, but a mark of strength. She understands that true strength does not come from the applause of the crowd or the validation of others, but from within. The quiet, unshakable strength that comes from a deep and abiding faith in God. While the world may search for approval in the eyes of others, she has learned that approval from the Lord is sufficient for her soul. In her solitude, she draws closer to Him, finding solace and purpose in the stillness. Unlike those who seek the comfort of constant companionship, she is not afraid to be alone. She understands that time spent in quiet reflection is never wasted. Her solitude is sacred, for it is in those moments that she listens most intently to the voice of her Creator. When the noise of the world fades away, she finds clarity, peace, and strength. In this place she is reminded of her purpose and refocused on the path God has set before her. Her reliance on her inner fortitude is not a result of self-sufficiency, but of complete dependence on God. She knows that her strength comes from Him, and in the quiet of her solitude she can hear His whisper more clearly. It is in these moments that she finds the courage to face the trials of life with grace and resilience. She does not need the reassurance of others, because she is anchored firmly in her faith, knowing that God is with her and will never forsake her. In her solitude she does not feel loneliness, but rather a deep sense of purpose. While others may feel the need to surround themselves with distractions and noise, she knows that silence holds the key to personal growth and spiritual depth. She embraces this stillness, for it provides an opportunity to grow closer to God and to reflect on His goodness. Her solitude strengthens her faith, builds her character, and equips her for the challenges ahead. Her faith is the foundation of her strength. She knows that without God she can do nothing, but with Him all things are possible. In her quiet moments she seeks His guidance, draws from His wisdom, and finds renewed strength for the journey. Her trust in God is unshaken, even when the world around her is in turmoil. Her solitude becomes a sanctuary where she finds refuge and restoration in His presence. Book 5. The Faith. Solitude does not isolate her from the world, but rather equips her to engage with it more fully. She knows that only in her quiet time with God can she be truly prepared to serve others. It is from her solitude that her love for others flows. Her inner peace and strength become a source of light and encouragement to those around her. Her solitude is not selfish, but a means by which she can be a blessing to others. In her solitude she finds freedom, the freedom to be herself without the constraints of others' expectations, the freedom to live authentically without the pressure of conforming to the world's standards. She does not need to seek the approval of others, because she is secure in her identity as a beloved child of God. Her strength comes from knowing who she is in Him, and that truth anchors her in all circumstances. Her solitude also reveals her wisdom. She does not rush to fill the silence with words, but rather takes time to listen and reflect. In her quiet moments she gains insights and understanding that others may miss in their busyness. She knows the value of stillness in a noisy world. Her solitude becomes a source of clarity, enabling her to make wise decisions and navigate life's complexities with grace and discernment, and the virtue of time to consider points and pore over in the world of wisdom. While others may fear loneliness, she has learned to embrace it as a precious gift. Her solitude provides the space for spiritual growth, personal reflection, and emotional healing. In her quiet times she can confront her fears, process her emotions, and seek God's guidance. She does not run from the discomfort of being alone, but rather embraces it as an opportunity to grow stronger and more rooted in her faith. Her solitude is her strength because it draws her closer to God, deepens her faith, and helps her become the woman she was created to be. In a world that constantly pushes for more noise, more activity, and more distractions, she understands the power of silence. It is in her solitude that she finds the courage to walk boldly in her purpose, knowing that God is with her every step of the way. Through her faith and strength, she becomes a beacon of hope to others, shining the light of God's love in a dark and noisy world. She has come to understand that the value of relationships is not measured by their quantity, but by their depth. In a world that often prizes popularity and surface-level interactions, she seeks something far more precious, authentic connections that reflect truth, integrity, and a shared vision. For her, it is not about the number of friends she has, but the quality of those relationships. She has learned that true companionship is born out of mutual respect, vulnerability, and a willingness to invest in one another's lives. She settles on the Parabel. That building quickly becomes a place for conversations regarding all matters spiritual. This wisdom has shaped the way she approaches relationships. She doesn't need to be surrounded by many people to feel complete. Instead, she values the few who genuinely understand her heart, the ones who listen with care, and the ones who walk with her through life's ups and downs. These relationships are not based on convenience or external appearances. They are built on a foundation of trust, loyalty, and shared experiences. With these individuals there is no need for pretense, for they are free to be their true selves, knowing that they will be loved and accepted for who they really are. The woman who values depth over quantity does not fear solitude. She knows that being alone does not equate to loneliness, but rather a time for reflection and growth. In her solitude she finds clarity and purpose, as she spends time cultivating her own character and relationship with God. By prioritizing quality over quantity, she has learned that meaningful connections come when you are first grounded in who you are and in your relationship with the Lord. Only then can you truly give and receive love without expectation, judgment, or condition. She does not rush to fill her life with people, for she recognizes that superficial relationships drain energy and offer little in return. The woman who seeks depth understands that relationships require time, effort, and intentionality. She nurtures those connections that add value to her life, refusing to settle for anything less than relationships that bring her peace, joy, and spiritual growth. She does not chase after fleeting friendships or shallow conversations. Instead, she desires relationships that inspire and challenge her to be her best self. In choosing depth, she recognizes that real relationships are often tested by time and circumstance. It is through shared trials, struggles, and victories that the strongest bonds are forged. The woman who values depth understands that true companionship is not just about shared moments of joy, but also about walking together through hardships, offering support, encouragement, and love when it is needed the most. These are the relationships that stand the test of time, for they are grounded in something much stronger than fleeting emotions. They are rooted in love, faith, and commitment. She doesn't let herself be swayed by societal pressures that demand constant socializing or maintaining a large circle of acquaintances. Instead, she remains true to her values, recognizing that the few meaningful relationships she has are far more valuable than many that are superficial or transient. Her circle may be smaller, but it is composed of people who genuinely care for her, and whom she deeply cares for in return. These are relationships marked by sincerity, honesty, and the willingness to invest in one another's lives. In her pursuit of depth, she is selective about where she places her time and energy. She understands that time is a precious resource, and she does not waste it on shallow interactions or relationships that do not align with her values. She is intentional about choosing people who add value to her life, whose presence encourages her growth, and whose influence leads her closer to God. She is willing to let go of relationships that do not contribute to her well-being, understanding that it is better to have a few meaningful connections than to be surrounded by many who do not genuinely care. The woman who values depth over quantity also understands the power of silence and reflection. She doesn't feel the need to fill every moment with conversation or activity. Instead, she takes time to listen, to be present, and to understand the hearts of others. She is a woman who knows the importance of deep conversations that challenge the mind and nourish the soul. She does not engage in idle gossip or trivial chatter, but seeks out conversations that inspire, encourage, and bring life to those involved. Her relationships are not based on convenience or social status, but on shared values, respect, and love. She is drawn to people who inspire her to grow, challenge her to think deeply, and encourage her to live out her purpose. The connections she forms are based on authenticity, not on pretense. In her presence there is no need to perform or put on a facade. What you see is what you get, and that is a powerful gift. She values vulnerability, honesty, and transparency, for she knows that true intimacy is built on these qualities. Finally, the woman who values depth over quantity recognizes that her relationships reflect her own heart. By choosing to invest in deep, meaningful connections, she is choosing to align herself with people who share her values and aspirations. These relationships are not just about what others can offer her. They are about mutual growth and shared purpose. She believes that in deep relationships, we find the truest reflection of ourselves, both the beauty and the flaws, and through love, grace, and faith, we become more of who we are meant to be. She is often misunderstood, judged for choices that others may not fully comprehend. The world looks at her from its own limited perspective, casting judgment without knowing her heart, her intentions, or the depth of her faith. Yet she stands unmoved by these criticisms, knowing that her worth is not contingent on the opinions of others. She understands the wisdom in the words that say, "The world will never understand you if you live for God," and she embraces that truth with grace. To her, the approval of others is fleeting, but the approval of God is eternal and unshakable. The judgment she faces often comes from those who are unable to understand her convictions, her quiet strength, and her firm reliance on God. They may see her choices as unconventional or too radical, but she remains steadfast in her commitment. While the world praises those who conform, she stands out, following the narrow path that leads to righteousness, and she knows that this path is not one everyone will appreciate. They may see the same path as one everyone will appreciate, yet, despite the criticism, she does not waver. Her confidence is rooted in a deep, unshakable understanding that God is the ultimate judge of her actions. Her resilience in the face of judgment is not born of defiance or pride, but of quiet assurance. She has learned that the approval of people is fleeting, often swayed by passing trends or shifting opinions. But the approval of God, the one who sees her heart and understands her motives, remains constant. The world may label her as strange, as too different, or even as too faithful, but in her heart, she knows she is exactly where God wants her to be. Her identity is firmly anchored in Him, and nothing can uproot that. She endures judgment with grace, not responding with defensiveness or bitterness. She understands that people will always have something to say, especially when they don't understand. Rather than fighting back, she chooses to remain calm, letting her actions speak louder than words. She lives in a way that reflects the values she holds dear: compassion, kindness, and unwavering faith. Her integrity and humility shine through, despite the negative opinions others may try to cast upon her. She knows that the only opinion that truly matters is that of her Creator. The judgment of others may attempt to sow seeds of doubt, but she does not allow these seeds to take root. She has learned to protect her heart, guarding it with the knowledge that God's opinion is the one that carries weight. When she faces rejection, criticism, or misunderstanding, she turns to God in prayer, seeking His affirmation. She reminds her that she is loved, chosen, and valuable in His sight, regardless of the misunderstandings that may come from the world around her. During rejection, she reminds her that she is loved, chosen, and valuable in His sight, regardless of the misunderstandings in her life. Judgment from others serves only as a reminder of her distinctiveness. She was never meant to blend in with the world. She was created to stand out, to be a light in the darkness. The more she faces judgment, the more she realizes that it is a sign she is living faithfully, in alignment with God's will. Her journey is not about seeking validation from people, but about following the call that God has placed on her life. She walks confidently, knowing that her purpose transcends the world's judgment, experience of their thinking. She has come to understand that those who judge often do so because they themselves are struggling with their own insecurities or misunderstandings. Instead of reacting with anger or frustration, she chooses compassion. She knows that their judgment is a reflection of their own hearts, not of her worth. She is able to forgive easily because she recognizes that the opinions of others are often not a true reflection of who she is. Her true worth comes from being a beloved child of God, and she takes solace in knowing that He alone has the authority to define her. Judgment, though painful, has become an opportunity for growth. It has taught her to trust in God's timing and His wisdom. When she faces criticism or misunderstanding, she turns inward, seeking God's presence. In those quiet moments with Him, she finds peace, strength, and comfort. She is reminded that Jesus Himself faced rejection and judgment, yet He remained steadfast in His purpose. Her journey, too, is one of faithfulness, and she draws courage from knowing that the path of righteousness is often met with opposition. For all the judgment, she has learned not to take things personally. She recognizes that those who judge her often do not know the full story. They cannot see her heart, her struggles, or the depths of her relationship with God. Therefore she refrains from allowing their opinions to shape her actions. She knows that if God is pleased with her, that is all that matters. The priest's wife, their judgment cannot sway her, because her heart is set on pleasing her heavenly Father, not on gaining the approval of the world. She walks through life with a keen sense of discernment, understanding that not every person who crosses her path is meant to stay. She has developed an acute awareness of people's intentions, recognizing the difference between genuine kindness and hidden agendas. Her discernment is a gift, one that has been sharpened by experience, prayer, and the wisdom gained from years of navigating relationships. She does not let appearances cloud her judgment. Instead, she takes the time to understand the heart of a person before allowing them access to her life. This cautious approach to relationships is not born out of fear, but from a deep wisdom that values her peace and well-being. Her wisdom tells her that not everyone who smiles is trustworthy. She can tell when someone's words do not align with their actions, or when there is an undercurrent of manipulation or selfishness in their behavior. This ability to discern others' true motives helps her avoid unnecessary conflict, protect her heart, and ensure that the people in her life bring value and positivity rather than harm. Her discernment is an extension of her self-respect and her commitment to surround herself with those who add to her life rather than take away from it. She knows that life is too short to entertain toxic relationships, or to invest in those who have no genuine care for her well-being. This is why she guards her circle with intentionality. She understands that relationships, whether personal or professional, are either assets or liabilities. Those who drain her energy, sow discord, or hinder her spiritual growth are quickly recognized and distanced. She does not shy away from making hard decisions when it comes to letting people go, for she values peace, growth, and mutual respect above all else. Setting boundaries is one of the ways she practices discernment. She is clear about what she will and will not tolerate in her relationships. Her boundaries are not walls built to isolate, but safeguards to protect her heart, her time, and her energy. She communicates her limits with clarity and kindness, knowing that her worth is not dependent on pleasing others. The second she turns, in fact, by setting healthy boundaries, she demonstrates respect for herself and others, fostering relationships based on mutual understanding and care. Her ability to discern people's intentions is not just about avoiding negativity, but also about recognizing the good that people bring into her life. She can tell when someone is genuinely supportive, loving, and interested in seeing her succeed. These are the people she welcomes with open arms. She understands that real relationships are built on trust, integrity, and shared values, and she is quick to invest in those who exemplify these qualities. Her circle is small but intentional, consisting of individuals who inspire, encourage, and uplift her in her journey. In discerning carefully, she also listens to the Holy Spirit. She understands that some people may present themselves one way, but God sees their heart. She has learned to trust her spiritual instincts, which are often anointed with divine insight. At times the Holy Spirit may warn her to step back, reassess a situation, or move forward with caution. This inner guidance is invaluable, for it keeps her from falling into snares that could derail her purpose. She listens attentively to the still small voice, knowing it will never lead her astray. She is not quick to judge, but rather takes the time to observe and understand. She watches how people behave in different situations and takes note of their character over time. She believes that actions speak louder than words, and she evaluates people based on consistency and authenticity. She knows that it's easy for anyone to put on a facade for a short period, but true character reveals itself over time. Because of this, she does not rush into relationships or make hasty decisions. She prefers to give time and space for a person's true nature to emerge. While she values kindness, she also knows that kindness alone is not enough to form a deep and lasting bond. She seeks relationships where there is integrity and alignment of values. It is not enough for someone to appear friendly or to have good intentions. She must see evidence of their character in their actions and decisions. She is careful not to be swayed by charm or flattery, recognizing that superficial qualities often mask deeper issues. Her discernment leads her to seek out those whose hearts are aligned with her own, who encourage her walk with God and support her growth. Her discernment also allows her to evaluate her own role in relationships. She is not just looking for others to meet her needs. She examines whether she is contributing positively to the relationship. She understands that healthy relationships are mutual, and she holds herself to the same standards she holds others. She asks herself whether she is being authentic, compassionate, and supportive. She asks herself whether she is being authentic, compassionate, and supportive. This self-awareness helps her maintain healthy boundaries and ensure that her relationships are balanced, where both parties are equally invested in one another's well-being. She recognizes that there are seasons in life when certain relationships may no longer serve a purpose, and this is where discernment is key. Sometimes God calls her to distance herself from individuals who no longer contribute to her growth, or who bring unnecessary drama into her life. She does not cling to these relationships out of fear of loneliness or social expectation. She understands that moving on may be painful, but it is often necessary for her to step into the next season of life. She trusts that God has a plan for her, and that He will place the right people in her life at the right time. Her discernment also extends to the relationships that God has placed in her life. She cherishes these relationships and ensures that they are nurtured with care and intentionality. She knows the value of friendship and loyalty, and she is careful not to take those she loves for granted. She makes time to pour into these relationships, offering support, encouragement, and genuine love. She is discerning about who she lets into her inner circle, and once she has identified those who are trustworthy, she works hard to build lasting, meaningful connections. In the end, her discernment allows her to maintain peace, protect her heart, and build the kind of relationships that will bring growth and joy. She understands that not everyone who crosses her path is meant to stay, and that's okay. Her life is too precious to waste on relationships that don't align with her purpose or values. She chooses carefully, prayerfully, and intentionally, knowing that her time and energy are gifts to be spent wisely. Her heart is a delicate treasure, and she guards it with wisdom and discernment. She understands that not everyone deserves to know her deepest thoughts and feelings. In a world where trust can be broken and relationships can be fleeting, she is cautious about where she invests her emotional energy. It is not that she is cold or unloving, but rather that she values her emotional well-being and knows that a guarded heart allows her to preserve her peace and focus on what truly matters. Her vulnerability is a precious gift, one that she shares only with those who have proven themselves trustworthy. The decision to guard her heart comes from a place of self-respect and wisdom. She has learned from past experiences that not everyone who comes into her life is meant to stay. There have been times when she opened herself up to others only to be let down or hurt. These experiences, though painful, taught her the importance of setting boundaries and being selective about who she allows into her inner world. She no longer blindly trusts those who show kindness for a moment, only to reveal a different side later. Her heart is no longer easily given. It must be earned. Her caution is not rooted in fear, but in the desire to protect herself from unnecessary pain. She understands that when she entrusts someone with her emotions, she is allowing them to have a certain level of influence over her state of mind. If that trust is betrayed, the consequences can be deeply damaging. She has learned to recognize when someone is not ready or able to handle the responsibility of her heart, and who uses all possible care to preserve her and enrich her life and the faith of her heart. Her trust is a gift, and she gives it to those who have demonstrated loyalty, respect, and authenticity over time. And while she values close relationships and meaningful connections, she knows that not every person is worthy of her vulnerability. She carefully considers how others treat her and those around her, how they speak of others, and how they handle conflicts. If someone consistently displays a lack of integrity, compassion, or reliability, she knows not to open her heart to them. She has learned that true friends and partners are those who prove themselves in their actions, not just in their words. She watches for consistency, for honesty, and for the kind of love that doesn't come with strings attached. She does not share her vulnerabilities with just anyone, but when she does, it is with those who have earned her trust. She has a small circle of friends and loved ones who are safe spaces for her heart. These are the people who have walked with her through trials, who have listened without judgment, and who have supported her without expectation. She shares her deepest struggles and triumphs with them, knowing they will hold her heart with care. They know her flaws and still accept her, which is why her trust in them is sacred. Her guarded heart also allows her to maintain a sense of independence and emotional stability. She does not rely on others for her happiness or validation. She knows that her worth is not dependent on anyone else's approval, and this understanding frees her from the need to constantly seek affirmation. Her sense of self is rooted in her identity in God, and her heart is secure in that knowledge. She does not need to seek validation through external relationships because her value is already established. Her emotional well-being is a reflection of her inner strength and faith. They are one in the same. There is power in her self-awareness. She knows her triggers and the things that cause her emotional turmoil. She understands that certain situations or relationships can bring up old wounds, and she takes steps to protect herself from unnecessary hurt. This level of self-awareness allows her to make choices that preserve her peace and emotional health. She is not easily swayed by the opinions of others, nor does she let her emotions dictate her actions. She has learned to remain steady and calm, even in the face of adversity, because she knows the importance of protecting her heart. However, she is not closed off to meaningful relationships. She believes that there is a balance between protecting her heart and being open to love. She is not afraid of deep connections, but she is selective about who she allows to get close. She understands that true love and genuine friendship require vulnerability, but only with those who have earned her trust. She will open up to those who have shown themselves to be reliable, kind, and unwavering, but she does so with caution, knowing that love and trust are built over time. Her heart's protection does not mean she is cold or unloving. She is capable of great love and compassion, but she loves wisely. She does not pour her heart into relationships that drain her or cause her to question her worth. She has learned that self-love is just as important as loving others, and protecting her heart is a form of self-care. She does not feel guilty for setting boundaries or for choosing to keep certain parts